One of the characteristics of perfectionism is that we are really good at noticing setbacks, and we almost always dismiss when we have a step forward, or ignore it, or just don't eat, like it just doesn't even register. Yeah, celebrating when things go right is really, really tough. Usually, what drives a binge, I always look for the first thing I look for is, did you get too hungry? I don't think that was occurring in this maybe here. The second thing I look for is this a food rule that is triggering the binge? So I think that might be part of your pattern and your past experience of like, there was such a staunch line of like, no, I shouldn't eat this much, or no, I shouldn't eat that food. And as we softened that and started to normalize, like food can be a coping mechanism and all foods can be okay at times. And we're trying to like bring more awareness to it. It was like, if you take the guilt out of the guilty pleasure, then what's driving it, it's not as exciting. So part of the perfectionistic temperament is that you're threat sensitive, which means your brain is really good at going like, oh crap, here's a problem, I need to fix it. Oh crap, there's a vulnerability, I need to, cope with that. And our brains are not very good at noticing like, oh, here's something that was pretty easy, or here's something that feels safe and okay. Like we are so threat sensitive and not very reward sensitive usually. And so even something like binging or using weed, it probably is more likely that you're trying to avoid pain than you are trying to chase endorphins. And like for some people, they're really reward sensitive and maybe they're doing it out of a different, like the mechanism is different for them. Okay, I want to show you a handout. I just built this out of like conversations like these with so many people. You're so not alone. This pattern of like using food for permission to rest, of blaming the food, but then noticing like this has more to do with like self-soothing or regulating, getting through hard things. So this is a meal plan, except it's not really the meal plan you probably have in your head. I'm going to pull it up here in a second. When I say meal plan, what's that feel like for you? Do you like that word? Does it feel like diety? Does it feel triggering and hard? Tell me about what it's like for you. Work. More on the to-do list. Sounds like you go into like that hyper arousal of like, okay, got to do all the things and plan it all out and like super focus and superwoman and all of that. This, I think, will help to solidify more of a roadmap of the things that I want to help you with. So this has to do with like the whole picture of self-care, not just the food. And we're not going to talk about like what you described where you're like grocery list, meal plan. What am I going to do today? Like, that's not it. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen now that it finally came up. Okay. So this is not, it's numbered, but it's not necessarily linear at all. The order I put them in has to do with like foundation. So this is what I called it, the meal plan foundation, because if you want to feed yourself and you want to neutralize some of these binge patterns, these are the things that are going to really be empowering. First is self-compassion. I know that you're on that self-compassion journey. Getting to know those patterns with compassion and being trauma informed, like noticing like, oh, that pattern happened because of trauma, is really, really important. We've started to do that. And I think even this example is noticing like that's shifting food already. The window of tolerance, we've talked about that. Your happy place, we'll talk about that even more, like getting to know what is in the middle, what is that calm place or that happy place that you feel like you can connect with yourself. Food is so different, right? And so we'll keep checking in with that. Number 3, this rest and play and non-productive time is huge for you. And this is one of the hardest things for most folks who lean perfectionistic. It's like, this feels boring and it feels harder sometimes than work. Like making a to-do list, getting through it is one thing. Maybe that feels like more doable than like taking a break, taking a lunch, staring at the birds and watching the squirrels. Like our brains need that. And so that's often where like food might come in. You know, there's the example of like the exasperated mother who's like, oh my gosh, I'm just up to here, I need a break. And you go and you eat and you tell the kids, I just need to feed myself. But really what you're doing is, I need a minute. And so you can't really feed yourself the way that you want to until this one starts to feel like more doable. And it is a constant work in progress. It's not easy. So, number 4, heal your relationship with food. That's also something we've started to explore. Deconstruct diet brain. Eat consistently and regularly. Don't skip meals. Don't get overly hungry. That's all part of it. Along with this, I don't put it on here because it can have such a triggering connotation, but part of this is healing your metabolism. If you've had these like really wide swings with like not eating enough and then binging, your body doesn't really know what to do with that. And so creating that consistency allows your metabolism to start to create a new normal, and that your body loves that. And that can also help downregulate your nervous system, which helps reduce anxiety and help you feel safer in your body. So, and then number 5, I call this the launching pad, because as you get to know really your core values in life, but then translate them into food, suddenly making food decisions feels more clear. And that's a whole conversation that's really, really fun that we can talk about. Like, if you're in the midst of a food decision and you're not quite sure how to navigate it, we can check in with values and be really flexible and be present in the moment with like what needs do you have in the moment, and what values are you going to prioritize in the moment. And now I know what to eat.